Right, back onto the street tracker build. Here's the state of play as we are now. We've done quite a few things on the bike. We'll give you a quick walk around to show you what's happening. We've mounted some lights on an aluminium plate here at the front. Now we've put a hole in so we can put all the big bunch of wiring in that comes off the harness here at the front, and it makes it nice and tidy out of the way. All that used to live in the old headlight, and it's a bit of a problem when you put a number board or something on the front. So we've got these two little bright LED headlights here. I've just mocked up a couple of brackets here to mount everything onto. I've made an aluminium number board in with holes on the front. We've bent up and welded up out of aluminium. This is obviously going to get painted. This is in black base coat at the moment. That still needs a bit of work done to it. Moving on round, we now have the hydraulic steering damper fitted onto the frame here. And as you can see, the frame has now been flattened off and primed and top coated in 2K black, super black. We've also done the engine casings in gloss black, side casings, top case. We've now cleaned up the exhaust system and fitted it on. It's amazing how these pipes clean up. This set's 4 years old now, and just a quick clean up with the Scotch-Brite pad, they come up like new. We've put the tracker system on because the high level that we're going to put on isn't ready yet. So we just hung it off a little hanger here just to steady it. The exhaust system is quite steady mounted onto the centre mounting here, but that's just to stop it wobbling. It's all rubber mounted. Check any vibrations. I've made a couple of little hanger plates up here for the footrests. I was originally going to hang them on this pivot here, which was fine until I tried the seat on with the pad on, and it was just a little bit far forward, so I've decided to come to the standard rear set mounting points of here, which is where the Thruxton tends to mount them on. I prefer the rear sets just a little bit further back than the stock mounts, which are about here. Now the next dilemma is which footrest to use. We've got a choice of 4 that we can use. I was either going to use fixed alloy ones, like that, which I'm tending with at the moment, or I could go to black of the same type and paint the footrest mounts black. But then maybe I'll have to mount these mountings black as well. So it's where to go for black and silver. And of course I can go for a folding version of the same footrest as well, in either silver or black. But I prefer fixed footrest because I just think it feel a bit more secure under your foot. As you can see, the frame's got a much better finish on it now than the stock finish. I'm not a great lover of powder coat because it tends to go a bit milky after a while. Here you can see the wiring harness is all now in place. We've just got to make a couple of mounting brackets up. Fuel pumps, we're starting to plumb this up. We're going to put a filter in underneath here, underneath the battery box, so it's neat out the way. You can see the rectifier is now all mounted in, and we've got the chain on, sprocket on, rear brake master cylinders on. We've mounted the LED indicators. We've actually mounted them onto the mounts for the rear shock absorbers, which I think is quite neat. We've now got the loop all welded in and painted, and this has been reinforced. We've got a mounting on for the rear light. We have got it all plated up with aluminium all the way through, which has all been gloss black to match in with the frame, which keeps all the dirt and crud out. And the wiring harness runs up in a sandwich in between, and we have all the wiring gubbins will all mount in the back here. We've modified the harness because of the rectifier remount, so that's the harness, the wiring coming down to the rectifier now. Again, we're going to have the pipe coming in here from the tank back into the filter. Small bracketry to put in on this side to mount everything up on there. And again, we've made a pair of little neat alloy plates up. Now this gives a nice position. The other disadvantage of having the pivot on this point here is that the gear lever is obstructed by the actual shaft coming out of the motor, and you have to have it packed out. And I thought it was just a little bit too far out on the bike to be comfortable, so I've decided to go back to the thrusting position, which gives you a bit more clearance. We've done the swinging arm in a Vicrom paint finish, which over silver gives a great fake aluminium finish, which really brightens the back end up of the bike at the back end instead of having a horrible powder coated black swing arm. It also shows off the shocks and the sprocket and everything nicely. Under the seat, we've mounted the seat that we're using on adjustable mounts, so I can get it exactly set up to where I want it. These are really handy. The little rubber caps go on the top of those. Gives plenty support for the seat, so you're not going to need cracking or moving around. And the seat bolts onto a threaded hole here at the back. And I think that's about it. The wiring harness is almost in. We've just got a bit more messing about with it to get it right. We've got to move the horn wiring down to the bottom and the sensor wiring for the temperature sensor on the bottom of the motor. And just give you a better look underneath to see where the sensor is and how the pipes are finished now. We've also put a couple of little M5 studs welded in to act as clips for the clutch cable, because we can't use the plastic clips anymore because the holes are welded up. Not much more to do now. We've got the paintwork on the tank and seat to do and the side panels. And just general refurbishment work. Got the calipers to rebuild and get the speedo sorted out, and we're going to mount a clock, make an aluminium clock holder for the top here. Right, we've got the fuel system all installed now, and the oil system's all in, filled up with oil, checked it for leaks. Everything seems to be fine there now, and we're ready to fire it up. First of all, what we need to do is turn on the ignition and let the system prime, and just double check when it was running there that we had 4 bar of fuel pressure, which we have. I've just set that up. Checked it all for leaks, no leaks anywhere, so I think we're ready to try and fire it up. So here goes. There we go. That seems fine there now, no leaks, everything seems to run fine. Right, we'll get the tank on and everything else hooked up, and then we're a bit further on our way. Right, just to show some of the work we've done up to now. We've now got all the bodywork and tank done in black base coat, ready for striping and painting. Just getting everything fitted up on the bike so we can get all the stripe work to line up with each other. We've made up the number board containing all the electrics. There is a full-size number board to go on the top of here, but I'll just show you how all the electrics are packaged up inside to make it neat. What we've done, we've put a 3mm thick aluminium backplate in with a hole drilled in, which is actually the same size as the headlight hole, so you can get all the wire and harness through there, and cables, and all neatly out of the way. Made up some mounting brackets for the lights, they're not tight at the moment. And we've put a couple of grommets in to run the cables through. And once that's bolted up, now once all this is bolted up, you can see it neatly gets all the wiring out of the way. And then we fasten our number board with matching holes on the top. Now this is obviously going to be painted white with a black trim around the edge. Now the rest of the panels are on the bike. We've still got to pack these side panels up to get them the right height. But we've got the seat loosely fitted on there. So you can see how the line of the bike's going to be. It's starting to look quite smart. I quite like the aggressive look of the rear end now, especially with that big 150 tyre in the back. Now you can see the details of all the metal work that we've made up in here. This is all aluminium cut to shape, and it just finishes the bike off nicely and neatly under there. Goes all the way down to the swing arm to stop any dirt getting in there. We've put some little bracketry on here to take the rear brake hose, etc. What takes the time on a build like this is making all these little brackets and clips and everything up to mount everything. But we're almost there now. And we're just going to Photoshop this now and just get the lines exactly right where we want them before we tape it all up. And have a bit of experiment with it. And that's about it for now. The bike's all up and running now. We've just got to make a clock mount for the top to put the rev counter on. And we're going to run a little digital speedometer on the bars. Here we've got the under seat detail. Let's see how it's all panelled in and reinforced here at the back. The loops we've welded in and the mount for the rear light. The battery and EFI unit are all mounted in there. And what we've done to mount the seat, we've mounted them on adjustable studs so we can get the heights exactly where we need them, and put little rubber pads on the top so it spreads the load out nicely on the fiberglass seat base. As we previously mentioned, we've packed the tank up 12mm on the rear mounts, and that gives us a nice straight line under the tank into the seat unit. This is handy because we can absolutely fine trim this to get just the right gap on the seat and the tank at the front without it chaffing anything. All the wiring in the back, the power commander in the back for the engine. A quick word about the engine. We've bored the engine out and it's got sleeves in it to take big Wiseco pistons, slipper pistons, which are higher compression than standard. Now that's about all we've done to the motor other than the oil cooling mods and the exhaust system. That combined to the power commander, we've tuned it for bottom and mid-range power. We don't want peaky top-end power. So this motor absolutely pulls like a train. And actually does very good miles per the gallon with the power commander fitted. Right, here we've got the bike all in base coat black, ready for masking off. Now I like to mask it off with all the bits mounted on the bike, and that way you can get all the colours flown correctly into each other, especially if you've got a pattern that runs through the bike completely. What we've done, we've cheated a bit, we've actually mocked it up on Photoshop. I'm not clever enough to do this. This future son-in-law's done this for me, he does it for a job. So this is before the paint. We've put a black base coat on because we're going to have some black striping and some black areas on it. The front number board here is going to have a white number board attached to it. This clock here is just a bit of a mock-up at the moment. We're not quite sure what we're doing with that. May run it like that, or may put a Motor Gadget clock on. On the front end here, I'm taking the standard non-adjustable fork caps off. spacer tube and the shims. Get the stock spring out, just let it drain a bit. As you can see on the stock spring, the windings are all the same all the way up. This just gives you a linear spring rate right throughout the travel. Ideally what you want is soft spring rate at first, progressively getting harder and harder as it goes down the travel to prevent bottoming out. And that's exactly what our progressive springs do. As you can see at the top here, they've got a very tight winding that gives you a light spring rate, and progressively getting harder and harder throughout the length of the spring. So you simply drop those in, put your shim back in, spacer tube back in, and replace the top nut with a nifty little adjustable nut. Now this screws in and out and pushes this plate up and down, so you can actually adjust the preload on the fork springs. Now it shows how much the standard springs have sagged because we've got a little bit of preload on there already. People don't appreciate how much springs will sag over time. Now these ones have been in here for probably about 7 or 8 years now, so they will have taken up a bit of the slack. These fork tops are available in either gold like this, which gives a little bit of bling on the bike, makes it look a bit race, or you can have them in all black if you don't want a little bling. Carefully tighten these up so you don't damage the anodizing on them. I'll just leave those fully wound off until I get sat on the bike, and then we'll measure the amount of droop we've got on the front end. And we can set the right height and droop up without those. So here we are at the final assembly stage, the best bit of the build. Just put the tank on, that's all ready to go now. Fuel pipes are connected up. And we're just doing the final connection of the electrics. We'll make some new connectors up for the back end here for the tail light in. And the indicator wiring. And moving to the front, we've got some new multi-plugs to put onto the harness for the multi-switch gears on the handlebars. They need a bit of changing around. We put some cables up inside the bars here because we're going to run bar end indicators, and I'm going to bond a little M8 threaded insert in the end of the bars here to mount the bar end indicators onto. And we've got some wiring to go in for the Motor Gadget Speedo, and we need to make a little mounting bracket to go on here, but that hasn't arrived yet, so that'll probably be getting done the next couple of days.